All right, good morning, you prep scientists. Today we're going to be starting a brand new unit called Ecosystem Restoration. So today's lesson is actually going to be a little complicated in terms of where we have to go to answer all the questions, and because I want to try a couple new things. Since it's a relatively simple lesson, I want to try a couple new things to help us interact as a class, especially during these kind of early lessons in the unit where we're doing a lot of class discussion usually if we were in the classroom. So please make sure you're watching this video all the way through. Make sure you are listening to all the instructions carefully and answering all your questions in the right spot. So that said, let's go ahead and get started. I'll move myself out of the way here. So this is going to be Chapter 1, Lesson 1, the pre-unit assessment. So first thing we're going to do is introduce the unit. So basically, we're going to be seeing what kind of background knowledge everybody already has, and we're going to be using that information to kind of spark everybody's ideas about what we're going to be covering in this unit. And the way we're going to do that is by using a brand new platform online that we haven't used before, at least in this class, called Padlet. So what I'm going to do is introduce you to that and show you how to log in. First, let's introduce this first question you're going to be answering there. It says, these photos show examples of ecosystems. And what do you know about ecosystems? So we're going to be exploring ecosystems today in order to understand what those ecosystems are. And to begin, we're going to be looking at some photographs of different ecosystems. So to do that, we're going to go to a website called Padlet, and there is a link to the one we're going to be working on today in your assignment. So you should have already gotten to this assignment if you're watching this video. And in that assignment, you'll see 4 links. You'll see the video that you're hopefully already watching. You'll see this Padlet right here. This is for activities 1 and 3. And then you have a Google Doc and a Google Drawing for activity number 2, but we'll come back to those later. So what you want to do right now is click on this link for the Ecosystem Restoration Padlet, and that'll bring this screen up. And what you're going to have to do here is log in. You'll have a few different options to log in. You're going to log in with Google. And the first time you log in, you're just going to use your UP Public Schools email address. The first time you log in, you might not see this right away. You might end up getting a screen that says, would you like to use basic or pro or advanced or whatever? Just click basic for now. And it'll probably won't bring you straight to the Padlet that I want you to answer. So you're just going to have to go back to the assignment, click on that link one more time, and now it'll come right back up. And now you don't have the login button up here, so you're going to be logged in already. And this is actually the first question that we had in the slide. So these photos show examples of ecosystems. What do you know about ecosystems? And what you're going to do is, to respond to this, is type right here a comment in response to that question. So what do I already know about ecosystems? And for now, I'm just going to write a test comment, please ignore. And your comment will pop up there with your name on it. And that is all you have to do. You can also, if you see something interesting that somebody else has written there, you can reply to what they've said as well as to the actual question here. Then we're going to move on to the next one. So we can think about ecosystems as places where animals and plants live together in their environment. There's many different kinds of ecosystems, and different types of living things live in those different ecosystems. And we're going to talk about a few examples today. So each one of these will be the next questions down on that Padlet. So you have the rainforest, the desert, tundra, the savanna, the coral reef, all these ones that are going to pop up in the slideshow right now. So this first one is a rainforest in Board Ranges National Park in Australia. And this is in part of Australia called Northern New South Wales. So go ahead and answer these questions on the Padlet. The next one is a desert. It's in Signal Peak, Arizona in the US. And same questions for this. What living things do you think we would find in a desert ecosystem? What might those living things need to grow? This one is a tundra near Bransfield Strait in Antarctica. And same questions again. What do you think living things we would find in a tundra ecosystem? What might they need to grow? Next one is a savanna in Serengeti National Park in Tanzania in Africa. And then our final ecosystem that we're taking a look at today is a coral reef in the Red Sea near Egypt. And again, what living things do we think we would find in a coral reef, and what might they need to grow? Now that we've talked about several different kinds of ecosystems, if you keep scrolling down, is this final question right here. Do we have any new ideas about what an ecosystem is? And do we notice anything else we'd like to share? So look through other students' comments since this is for class discussion. So since you hopefully have a lot of new ideas from what other students wrote and what you thought about, do we have any new ideas about what an ecosystem is, and do we notice anything else that we want to share? That's the spot to do it. So our unit question is going to be, how do organisms in an ecosystem get the matter and energy that they need to grow and thrive? So in this unit, we're going to gather evidence to answer this question. It's okay if you don't understand all the words in this question yet. We're going to learn about all of them in this unit. And this question means that we'll be investigating how living things in an ecosystem grow. So go ahead and in your note catcher, your notebook, your paper for this unit, whatever you're using at home, write down this unit question. How do organisms in an ecosystem get the matter and energy they need to grow and thrive? You need a little more time to do that. Go ahead and pause the video now. And we're going to move on to the next one. So our first vocabulary word for this unit is ecologist. So an ecologist is a type of scientist who studies ecosystems. So go ahead and write this one down on that same page where you wrote your unit question for this unit. So these are pictures of ecologists. And what they do is they observe ecosystems and the parts of ecosystems in order to draw some conclusions. So in this unit, we're going to take on the role of ecologists, just like we took on the role of archaeologists, of astronomers, of food scientists in the previous units. So as ecologists, we're going to be gathering information that can help us draw conclusions about ecosystems and the different parts of the ecosystems. Before we get into that, though, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a pre-writing assessment just to get everybody's initial ideas out there and see, so that I can see kind of what we need to focus on as we work through the unit, if there are any misconceptions, if there's anything we need to address. So we're going to go ahead and write our first ideas about a problem in an ecosystem and why it might be happening. So I want to give you time to reflect on what you might already understand and what you don't understand yet. So this reflection is an important thing because it's going to help you prepare for learning new things. It's not a test. Don't worry if your ideas are correct or incorrect. And I don't expect everybody will understand everything about the ecosystem yet. So there are 4 pages in the writing task, and we're going to go over the directions together. So where you're going to find this one is if you go back to your classwork. Here's the assignment right here. So this Google Doc for ecosystem restoration pre-unit writing. So this is the first part right here. So pre-unit writing, arguing why a forest ecosystem is not thriving. So we have 2 parts. First part, you're going to read the scenario. You're going to complete the diagram in part 1. And we're going to do this in the Google drawing that's back in the assignment. Next, we're going to read the information in part 2, and we're going to write an argument to answer the question on the last page here. So our scenario here is that mice, snakes, grass, and mushrooms live in an area of a forest. The mushrooms are decomposers. A forest ranger has gathered data showing that snakes are not growing and thriving in the forest. So here are the 4 organisms. We have our mice, our snakes, our grass, and our mushrooms. So the first part says the forest ranger has filled in some information in this diagram about the ecosystem in the forest. Finish the diagram by adding symbols and labels to show what the grass, mice, snakes, and mushrooms need to grow. Include what you know about molecules and energy. Go back to the assignment for your own copy of this image to draw on. So we're going to go back to the assignment, and our copy of the drawing is this Google drawing file right here. So you can put that, so you can take that, and so you're going to do your work for this on this. So to draw things on here, you just want to take, click up at the top here, go to the line tool. If you want to include new arrows, you can. Like if you, for whatever reason, you want the sun to be pointing at the snake, you can do that. You can also just take the scribble and scribble whatever you want in here. So if you want to give the mouse a party hat for some reason, because it's his birthday, you can do that. I don't know why you would, but just as an example. You can also use the text box to write in any words. So you can write in here, the mouse snuggles the snake, if you think that's what's going on with this arrow. And basically, you're just going to fill in this diagram with whatever you think the organisms are going to need in order to survive and how they're going to get it. Sorry about that. Here we go. Hide this. There we go. That's better. Okay, so yeah, so you're going to finish the diagram by adding in symbols and labels to show what the grass, the mice, the snakes, and the mushrooms need to grow. So all those drawings, so if you think the mouse needs the party hat to grow, you're going to draw in the party hat. If you think it needs something else, you're going to draw that in. Also, once you're done with doing this drawing, you can just close it out, come back to here, and you can move on to part 2. And in part 2, what we're going to do is write an argument about why the forest ecosystem is not thriving. So in part 2, it says the forest ranger is getting ready to present information to an ecosystem restoration group about why the snakes are not growing and thriving. We're going to use the data in this table below and the completed diagram that you made to write an argument about why the snakes are not growing and thriving in the forest. Be sure to explain what you know about ecosystems, matter, and molecules, and energy. The audience of your argument is the ecosystem restoration group. So these are people who know something about ecosystems. They are trying to fix this and make it better. So if you look at the table here, we have data for last year and we have data for this year. So last year there were 150 snakes. This year there are 65. And we have the same for the number of mice, number of plants, which is grass, the number of mushrooms or decomposers. We also have data on the number of sunny days for these 2 years, the number of rainy days for these 2 years, and the amount of carbon dioxide in the air. So you're going to look at that, use this data, and use your diagram that you created to write your argument here. And I want to make sure this argument there's a ton of space here. You can use the whole page. So make sure that you think about your explanation and write out a well thought out argument. Again, we're not expecting you to know everything, but you do need to be thinking about it based on what you already know. And you should be writing at least a full paragraph here, at least 4 or 5 sentences. So once you have completed that, once you've completed that, we're going to move on to our final activity for the day, which is going to be exploring the simulation for this chapter. So throughout the unit, we're going to be using this sim to help us figure out what an ecosystem is and what it needs in order to thrive. So we're going to go to our student apps page. So this will be right in your bookmarks. You're going to log in using Amplify. And if we use our remote learning password, we'll be able to get to all the units. And so remote learning at tryamplify.net. The password is, as always, remote learning 2020. And I'm in the modeling matter unit right now, which is not where I want to be. So I'm going to go back. And we're going to go all the way down to ecosystem restoration. And then the orange number 1 is going to be our sim for this unit. Once you have that open, you're going to play around with it, explore it. You have a little menu up here that doesn't actually have anything in it. You have all these, the key up here, and you can move things around. So you can remove rabbits, add rabbits back. And yeah, so there's a bunch of options. So basically you're going to play around with this and then press play to start it and see what happens. Okay, and you can speed it up here. And yeah, I'm just going to let you explore it from there without telling you anything more about how it works. So as you're exploring that, we're going to come back to this. We're going to come back to this. So once you've played around with it a little bit, you're going to answer these 2 questions. These are back on the Padlet. So what did you observe while exploring the sim, and what did you figure out about how the sim works? So those are going to be right below our stop sign from earlier. It says stop here until activity 3. And here we go. So what did you observe while exploring the sim? So your answer goes here. And then what did you figure out about how the sim works? This one is also an answer. So you're going to answer right there. Once you've gotten those 2 done, you can come back here and I'm going to play this video. This is just going to give us a quick overview of the sim so that we know a little bit more about it going forward. So this is the ecosystem restoration sim. This sim will help us investigate ideas about ecosystems. Select play to start the sim running up in the top. This key up top identifies the shapes and colors that represent different parts of the ecosystem. If you want to remove a living thing or organisms from this ecosystem, select it. To add the organism back in, select the plus sign. You can also remove other parts of the ecosystem, like the sun. To remove water, press on any area within the soil. You can change the speed of the sim with the menu in the top right. Select pause if you want to spend more time looking at something. Then select play again to keep exploring the ecosystem. So after seeing that, what did the sim exploration make you wonder about? So this is just our opening to the unit. So you should have some questions after exploring that sim about maybe why certain things happened, or what'll happen if you try changing something else. So this again is your last question on our Padlet down here. So what did the sim exploration make you wonder about? And so ecologists and other scientists are often going to make use of simulations to study things that we can't measure directly, right? So we will work with the sim many times during this unit, and it's going to help us investigate some ideas about ecosystems. So once you're done and leaving a comment on each of those questions on the Padlet, and you've completed the per-unit writing and drawing, we're done for the day. So we will see you on Monday to continue with this new unit. Tuesday. And if you are around this afternoon at 4 o'clock, make sure you show up for the Friday Together Gator trivia event that Ms. Mashinsky is going to be hosting. I'll be there, so I hope to see you there. Bye.